So there is a requirement where user want to see only the records which are belongs to India. So at that time, we can give the default value. Like instead of entering input value always, we can give the input default value. Sample. So if you see, when I click on execute, directly it is fill this data. Suppose if I don't give input like this, then user need to select always. But user has a requirement where user want to see the country which is belongs to India. So in that scenario, we can pass the default value. So this we are writing in SC38 transaction code. Suppose if you want to do same scenario in this function module, yes, you can do. If you want to pass any default values, you can pass the default value. Or else you don't need to pass anything. So once you enter the details, press enter. So automatically short text has written as sales document. How the system has recognized based on this data element. Now I have one input parameter. My output parameter is nothing but like I'll give one input. Like when I click on execute, I will pass a single input value. And when I click on execute, it has to display the single record. Which sales document I have entered, that related sales document record, entire record it has to display. So if it is a single record, I can use work area. If it is a single record, I can use work area. So under the export parameter, I'm using work area. So instead of giving WA in the naming convention, I'm using EX like on export. EX in the sense like it's like a export parameter. So export parameter is nothing but output parameter. Here I'm getting output only. Suppose if I give 12, if I click on execute, this record is visible, right? So this is nothing but this is my output only. So this output I can able to write here under the export tab. And this is from VBAK table. You can give any name here. So how do we use to define the structure or sorry, work area? If you see work area name, type, table name, because I'm fetching all the fields, right? If I'm fetching all the fields, I need to write work area name, type, table name. Suppose if I'm fetching specific fields, then I have to write work area name, type, structure type. But in this scenario, I'm using all the table fields. So I need to go for this syntax. So this syntax, we will write in this way, like work area name. Work area name in the sense here I have given EXVBAK. And next I need to define type. So choose F for help and choose the type option. Associated type is nothing but your structure. Either you are taking specific fields or all the fields. So in this current scenario, I'm taking all the fields from VBAK table. All the fields, it should be displayed from VBAK table. Here table name is VBAK. So this one, I need to specify under the associated type tab, VBAK. Once you fill this input details, press enter. Now, I need to write the logic. So as of now, I'm not using changing tables. So just I have used import and export as this is the first class of function model. So we'll see only simple example. So in the tables directly when I give input and whenever I have click on execute, it is displayed. But the logic we need to write in the function module. So I need to select a single record from VBAK table. So how do we write? Do you remember the query? Any one of you? Like I don't want to select all the records from the table. I need only one record.
Select VBLM from
Select.
table field name.
But I need all the fields. One record which is having all the fields. Select single star. Have you remember star? Star in the sense it will display all
Yeah,
the fields.
all
And
fields.
single in the sense it will take single record. In single record, it will fetch all the fields data. Okay. So right now I want to fetch single record which is having all the fields data. So for that I need to write select query. Select single means it will take only one record. And star in the sense it will take all the fields. In the table, how many fields are there? Those all the fields values will be taken. So select single star from. So from which table we want to fetch it? From VBAK. Into, so into after should I write table? Yes. Into table. So here internal table. Into table after generally what we use to specify internal table. If I go to program, see, I have selected these fields from Kenya1 table. Into table, here IT Kenya1. What is IT Kenya1 here? Type table of. It is a table. So that is the reason after table I have written IT Kenya1. But in our current scenario, I am fetching only single record. For single record, internal table is not required. So I have created only work area. If it is a work area, we should not specify table keyword because work area is not a table. Whenever you are referring to a internal table, then only after into we need to specify table. But exvbak is not a internal table. If you remember, if you see the syntax here, exvbak type vbak is there. Here table not there. Type table of not there in this syntax. Meaning it is not a internal table. It's a work area. If it is a work area, don't specify table keyword. Always remember. So we are selecting single record from VBAK table. Then we are storing into what is our output parameter name? You need to write output parameter name. So after selecting the single record from database table, we want to store on the application layer. So that is our output parameter exvbak. Exvbak. But we have a condition. Like whenever user is entering the sales order number, like based on the sales order number, it should fetch from the database table. Because in this table, it is having so many records. But how the system will be recognized either in 12th sales order number or 24th sales order number or first sales order number, that is based on our input. Based on our input, it will be fetched from the database table. Like here I have given 12. So meaning I am entering the input data. So this input, which field I have chosen here, sales document number. And in our current scenario also, I have used sales document number. So if we have any condition, select criteria, then that should be right after where. And here we are fetching all the fields. But which field data we are passing as an input here? So 12 I have entered. In which column I have entered? Sales document number. So this field name I need to specify here. Where VBELN. Because VBAK table is having 246 fields or I can say 246 columns. But how the system will understand whether I'm entering uh, either sales document number or creation date or sales document category. So we need to specify the condition where sales document number is equal to, because it is a single value. I am entering a single value. So where sales document number equal to user input. Whatever user is entering that input. So here input is nothing but what is our input parameter? Here you can see under the reference. Whatever we have given in the import, export, or if you maintained anything in the changing tables exception parameters, that will be written as a reference for us. So whenever we write the logic, we can see which parameter we passed as an import, which parameter name we have given as export. We can see from here and we can able to write. So right now Our input parameter is IMVBLN. So copy this one and enter it here. So this query meaning it will be select single record from VBAK table. Then it will be stored in this work area. But how the single record will be selected? Based on the user input. Whatever user is entering the input, based on that input, it will go to VBLN column. Then suppose, let me comment this one. And suppose if I give 12 as an input, so this one I am giving for a sales order number or sales document number. So in this all columns, star in the sense all columns will be there or all fields are there. So in that all records, it will be search. It will go to, so it will go to VBLN column and it will be fetched for this number. In VBLN column, if 12th number is there, then that will be displayed. So how this is happening based on the input category, like based on the selection criteria, we are fetching from this database table. And let me save it. Check it. I'll go activate and I'll execute. Suppose here I'm entering 12. So here I have given the input 12 and I'll click on execute. So if it is there, so here input I have given 12 and EXVBAK is there. If I click on that, see 12th record. All the columns are displayed. See, all the columns are displayed here. Entire single record, which is having all the fields in a single record. Those all displayed. So this is input and EXVBAK is nothing but our output parameter. So this symbol, generally it is represents to the work area. So always remember, if you see this kind of icon, it's nothing but it's a work area. If it is a table, like table contents, how it will be displayed, like rows and columns, similar way it will be displayed here. So if I come back, so this scenario I have given like based on the user input, it will fetch from the database table. Suppose if this input is not existing in the table, suppose I'll execute again. I have entered a sales document number. If it is not existing in the table, if I click on this one, empty, because this record is not existing in the database table. But user cannot understand like why it is displaying with empty values, like user doesn't understand this one. So always remember, whenever we write any program, we have to give the feedback to the user by using a message. If it is existed, any data, any kind of data, if it is existed, it will display the output. If it is not there, then we have to give a message, either information message or warning message. So always remember, whenever we write any kind of logic, if anything is not existed, we have to give a message so that user will understand. So in the function module, if you want to specify any message, that we have to write under the exceptions. Suppose here I'm giving exception like no, not found. So here invalid data. So I have given the exception name like not found. So not found the sense there is no data or invalid data or invalid data. Let it be invalid data. Now I'll go to source code and I'll write. If you see, I have given exception, it has written here. Now my condition is whenever user give the input, if the sales order number is existed in this database table, it will fetch single record and it will be displayed. Suppose if this sales order number which has entered by the user. If it is not text in the database table, then it has to display error message or information message. So that should be done with the help of exception. So we need to raise an exception, like we need to throw an error message. So how do we do that? By raising a exceptions. So to raise an exception or to trigger an exception message, we use a keyword rise. What is our exception name? Not found. So you need to write not found. But when it should be rise, when the above record is not found in the database table. So which statement should I write? Like if the above record is not found in the database table, like whatever we are giving the input, if it is not existing in this database table. So such type of statement, how can I write? Any idea?
If statement.
If
size abasi.
yes, if size subarsi. If size subarsi not equal to 0. Equal to 0 means above condition will be true. When the above condition will be true, whatever the sales order number user is entering, if it is exist in the table, then the condition will be true. Suppose user has entered some wrong data which is not entered in the table. So what will be happen? This input will be go to VBAK table and it will go to VBLN column. Let me show you practical things. So it will go to this sales document column and it will fetch for the sales document number which user has entered. Suppose if it is not existed, then it won't display anything, right? So this condition will be false at that time. If this input is existed, then the above condition will be true. If this number is not existing in the VBAK table, then this condition will be false. So we can write if size of bars is not equal to 0. Meaning if the above condition fails, then we need to raise exception. Exception is nothing but we are giving a message. So generally we can write message, message name and message type. But when it comes to function model, before we are writing a message, we need to raise a exception because directly we can user doesn't have any authorization for SC37 transaction code. So once we write this logic, we need to call into local program SC38. So at that time, if any data is mismatching, it will go to runtime error. To avoid those runtime errors, we are using exception here mainly. So this exception messages will be avoid the runtime errors. So that is the reason if you want to give any error message, always remember we have to use exceptions. So these exceptions can be raised with the keyword rise and exception message. So rise is nothing but it should trigger whatever the error message is there, that should be trigger. So system will be understand trigger is nothing but it will be take the keyword as rise. So system language will be different, right? So it will be understand with the help of this keyword rise. And here we can write a message. So you can write local message or global message. We already seen message class, right? Locally and globally. So generally we use global messages. So you can, whenever you are practicing, you can create a global message. Like I believe you already created one global message. So in that, you can add one message number and type the message. I'm writing here itself. Mm, Please enter valid sales document number. Type. Suppose user want to see it. It should be like information message. Then I'll write type as I. Then end if. So whenever the input is found, it will go to the table and it will be displaying the output screen. Suppose if the input is not found, it will be raise the exception and it will give a message. One second, huh? Okay. So let me save. So activate and I'll execute. So I'll enter some random input and here this is for execute. So click on execute. Now if you see here something has written like exception not found, meaning this data is not found. This data is not existed. But as of now you cannot see any error message because we are executing in AC37 transaction code. So you cannot see any error message. But whenever we call into local program, we can able to see. So just we need to give here exception, like what is our exception name? Not found, meaning this is not existed. And once we create function module, we need to call into local program. Always remember because this SC37 transaction code, like user cannot have an authorization for SC37 transaction code. So what we'll do, based on the requirement, we will create a function module. Then we will call into a local program. And this local program in the sense in SC38, whenever we write the logic in SC38, this is nothing but local program. Once you create this program, we will create a transaction code for this SC38 program. So even SC38 also we don't give the like user doesn't have the authorization for SC38 transaction code. But how they will access these output reports with the help of transaction code. In real time, if you are writing in SC38 transaction code, any report you are generating, we should always create a transaction code. And that transaction code will be given to the end user. So whenever user will put the transaction code here and they will enter, they will get the output directly. Because see, whenever I want to execute this function module, I have to go to SC37 transaction code and I need to give the function module name. Then I'll click on execute. And here I need to enter the input name, like whatever the input value, I need to enter it. Then I should click on this one. So this process user doesn't understand because they don't know what is mean by this one, or they doesn't understand like what is mean by function module, all these things. So that is the reason whenever we create function module, we need to call into a local program. So that local program, we can create a transaction code. So that transaction code we will give to the end user. So you need to remember this point. So once you create function module, we need to call locally. So let me call into any local program. Here. So go to SC37 transaction code, sorry, SC38 transaction code. You can call into any program. Let me create a new one. Calling function module. Choose the type as executable and click on save, like normally how we used to create a program. Similar way, we need to follow the steps. Then here we need to call the function module. So to call the function module, we have a button here or we have an option pattern. So choose this option pattern and here you can see first radio button call function is there. So with the help of this one, we can able to give our function module name. So in SC37, which function module you have created, you need to copy it and you can specify in SC38 transaction code here. Suppose if you forgot any further characters, you can put star and you can take F for help. So if FM after if some other characters are there, it will be listed out. But as of now, with this name, only function module is there. So that is the reason it has written here directly. So to call function module locally, we'll go to SC38 transaction code. We will choose the button pattern and we'll select the first radio button call function. And here we need to specify the function module name. If I press enter, see call function, our function module name. This is our input parameter and this is our export parameter. And this is the exception which I have written. So these details I have given in SC37 transaction code. But same details are visible in SC38 transaction code. As I mentioned, function modules are global modulation techniques. Once you create it, it will be saved globally. You can call anywhere in the SAP. And if you have observed here, under the exporting, our input parameter name is there. Under the importing, our export parameter is name. So names are interchangeable, like importing changed as exporting, exporting changed as importing. Like in this function module, importing will be like this. Input is act as input for this function module. But whenever I'm calling, this will be changed as exporting. Simple example is, suppose if you go to any foreign countries, suppose someone is there in a foreign country, if you want to purchase anything like perfume, and if they send to you, you used to say a one word, this is the imported perfume. So you used to say the word imported because you have purchased from other country and you have taken to this country, right? It is not in our country. We have taken from other country. So that is the reason we are using a word imported. Similar way, this input is not belongs to my local program. This input is belongs to this function module. And this export output is belongs to this function module. So it will be interchanged. Whenever I call into my program, those will be interchanged. Like input will be export, export will be turned as an import. So only these words will be different, but functionality will be same only. And suppose if I want to pass the input parameter, like in the function module, how we have defined a similar way we need to pass the input parameter. Like suppose based on the input parameter, I want to fetch the data from the database table. So what is the input parameter I have created here? PVBLN. What is the data type of this one? VBL and VA. So same type I need to define in my function module, in my local program. Suppose if I want to navigate to this function module, directly I can double click on it. It will go to SC37 transaction code. See? And from here, I can go to input parameter and I can copy the associated type. And if I come back, again it will come to my program. So I can pass a parameter. Parameter PVBLN type. What is associated type given in the function module? Same thing you can specify here. And here we are passing our input to this parameter. And I want to see a single record, right? So for single record, I need to specify the structure. So structure in the sense, I need to specify the work area to this output parameter or export parameter. So to see what is the data type of this parameter, I need to double click on the function module name. So before that, I need to save. I'll go to export and I'll use the same associated type. So always remember, if you want to fetch the data based on this function module, you need to give the same parameter type of the function module. Either it is import parameter or export parameter or changing parameters. How they have defined in the function module, similar way we need to define in our program. So it is a work area, right? So let me write here work area. Work area VBAK type. It is a table name. And this work area I can specify here. Work area VBAK. Suppose if the above condition is false, I can write any error message. Like tries exception is there, right? So that message here I can write like message. Let me keep it as this. I'll show you something. I'll save it. I believe here I haven't written any of them. So let me activate. Suppose if I execute, let me give 12. So I'm not getting any output because in the program I haven't written any write statement, and in the function module also I haven't written any write statement. But in the function module, even though I don't have any write statement, I'm able to see the output, right? So that is the functionality here. But if you want to see the output, we need to write statement. So if I want to see all the table fields data, we do have a function module. But as of now, I haven't started a read function module. So just I write with the help of write statement with few fields only. I don't want to write all the fields name. So these many fields data we can able to see in the output, but I need to write everything. But as of now, uh, I will write only few. But instead of like this, we can use a function module. So that will see in the coming up classes. Okay. Count. Okay. Fine. Let me take one more. Yeah. Suppose if I take 12 and if I execute, only these 5 fields data will be displayed because I have written only 5 fields. But if I want to see all the fields, it will fetch all the fields with this function module. But in the write statement, I'm using only these fields. So that is the reason it is displaying only these fields data. Suppose if I want to display all the fields, we have a function module like reuse ALB grid display, reuse ALB list display. With the help of these function modules, we can able to display all the fields data from the database table. But if I want to use those, I need to explain you few things. So that we haven't discussed. So we will discuss that part uh, in the concept of reports. So that is the reason, ignore that. As of now, you can remember these are nothing but all the fields from the database table. And here, I'm able to see the output. Like if I give 12 and if I execute, I'm able to see the one record, single record I'm able to see. But in this program, there is no select query. If you see, there is no select query written here. Without select query, this program is displaying the output. Like it is going to database table, it has fetched single record, and it is displaying the output there. So how it is happening? With the help of this function module. Like whenever I will execute this program, first it will go to this function module, and whatever I have written the logic, that will be executed. Let me put a breakpoint and will execute. Suppose I have given 12 and I'll execute. See, as of now, we are in the report program. SC38 transaction code. Call FM is there. And where we are right now in the 12th number line. So this is not yet executed. Suppose if I click on single step, see which screen it has went? It went to function module. This is the function builder, is 37. I have written this logic in AC37 transaction code. So whenever I execute the report, first it will go to the function module, and whatever the logic I have written, this will be executed. Suppose if I do single step, so my VBLN, what I have given the value, 12 value I have given. And this 12th value is there in the table. So at that time, size subarts will be equal to 0. So it won't go inside of this if block. If you see, it will not go to the if and end if block. If I click on execute, see, after 11th line, it went to directly 18th line because this condition is true. Look at here, size subarts equal to 0 is there here. Meaning this record is existed in the database table. And if I click on execute, again it will be come back to the main program where I have called. So whenever I execute this program, first it went to this function module and whatever the logic I have written inside the function module, that has executed first. And after that, with the help of this write statement, whatever the fields I have written, those will be written here. So in this way, function module will be worked. And same function module I can call into any programs. Whenever I require same kind of scenario, same kind of scenario I have, then I can reuse this function module in any other objects or programs. So in this way, we can reuse these function modules. And with error message that we'll see in the next class. So I'll explain one more scenario for the function module. So at that time, I'll write an error message. Suppose if it is not existed, I'll write an error message and I'll show you. So till here, do you have any doubts? One thing I'll cover, as I mentioned, SC37 transaction code, a user doesn't have it. Even SC38 also, they don't have the authorization. So how this data or how they can access this report with the help of transaction code. So to create transaction code, we have a transaction code SC93. So SC93 is a transaction code where we can able to create custom transaction code. Like whenever we want to write a program, we are going to SC38 transaction code. Whenever we want to create a package, either we can go to SC21 or SC80. Similar way, if user want to see any report output, they don't have the access to SC38 transaction code. So we have to create a custom transaction code and that custom transaction code will be given to the end user so that they can access. Now, I'll give a simple program name like C test rep or Z sales. Let me give Z sales order. Oh, it's not okay. So give the transaction code name. And this is a custom one, so you need to start with Z or Y. Like SAP, how they have created SC93, SC21, SC11. Similar way, we are creating a transaction code now. So to create the transaction code, we have a transaction code SE93. So once you enter to this screen, provide the transaction code name, click on create and provide the short text like sales order report. And here start object is there. Here we need to choose the radio button. Either you are creating transaction code for a program and the intro. So we have a concept called multi-fluid programming where we are works with the screens. So at that time we will choose this one. So as of now, you can ignore everything. Just see the second one. Focus on the second one. So right now we are going to create a transaction code for a report program. So report program in the sense where we are creating the programs in SC38 or SC80 transaction codes. So which are executable programs? Those are nothing but report programs. Suppose if you want to create a transaction code for executable program, choose the second radio button and click on continue. And here you need to specify the program name, like which program you want to create a transaction code. It's my program name. This is the program name, suppose. So I'll copy the program name and I'll go to display. So here you need to specify the program name. And selection screen in the sense by default, selection screen will be created as 1000. And I think I have shown you whenever I have explained um, parameter and selection screen. Oh, not TMG. I believe in the TMG process, I have shown you selection screen number, like for one step, two step. By default, whenever we enter any input, suppose if I execute this one, we are getting into this input screen, right? So this input screen has created in 1000 screen number. Like if I go to system status, there would be a screen number. See, the screen number is 1000 here. So whatever we are passing the inputs, those are belongs to 1000 screen number. Like whenever we create any parameter or select option, behind SAP has created an input screen. So this is a screen. So this screen is created by SAP. So the screen number is 1000. So by default, it will be selected as 1000 screen number for all our report programs. And if you have any variant, so this variant we'll discuss later. So as of now, in this screen, we will provide only the program name. And click on all these checkboxes like GUI support. Suppose if user is using a different SAP, like front end, instead of front end, they are using a different SAP system like HTML, Java, Windows. So it should be support in their systems also. So for that, we can choose this as selected. Once it is done, save it. Now, this is my transaction code. I'll copy this transaction code and I'll go to initial screen. How do we have initial screen? Let me close this one. So this is initial screen. This is my transaction code which I have created. If I press enter, see, directly it went to the program input screen. Suppose if I give 12 as my input and if I execute, see, it is displaying the data. It is not given any program name, nothing. Directly it went to the input screen and I have entered the input. So this is easy for the user also. Like whenever they put transaction code, it will allow them to provide the entry, like input. Once they enter the input, if they click on execute, they can see the output. So these things are easy to the end user. So that is the reason whenever we have any executable program, we always used to create a transaction code. So to create a transaction code, we have a specific transaction code SC93. Any doubts?